I'm about to discuss one of the greatest albums ever. Redman, There Is a Dark Side. Now, this is follows up his classic, What? The album. And this is his second album. Now, I'm gonna say this. Redman himself, does not stand behind this album. He said this was a very dark time in his life, and thus the title, There Is a Dark Side. He said his best album is Muddy Waters. It is one of his best albums, but this is my favorite, all-time favorite, and one of the greatest. Now I'm going to say why this is one of the greatest is because number one, this is a very dark album in terms of sound compared to the first one. First album was a lot of funkadelic samples and things like that. This album has funkadelic samples as well. This came out in like '94, and so the production is very bass heavy, hard hitting drums, very murky. However, gritty, and there's the keyboard bass that he uses makes it real funky. Every song. First single off of this was Rockefeller. Has some classic lines in it. I Can't Wait was another single off of this. But this album, Redman, he said he was very high and things like that during this album. He was zoned out. He was very zoned out. When you talk about dark, he goes underground, and I mean this is the epitome of underground. Not underground as in not well known, but underground as in sound. I mean it's gritty, funky, and everything. So, and then on this album, Redman really zones out and lyrically. I mean, lyrically, he has punchline after punchline after punchline. He spit in rhyme scheme after rhyme scheme and style. This album, I will connect to the first one I did, great albums of DLC. No one could do it better. First of all, Redman, who calls himself Funk Dr. Spot. And he even does a tribute album to DLC on one of his later albums. He has a song on here, Green Island, where he raps and does a tongue twisting style that reminds me a lot of what DLC did on his first album. Chronic Bubonic the Funky Bionic, he does this, oh my goodness, it's ill. Basically, right after that, he rhymes a certain way over a beat. He murks this album, like lyrically, he's so top notch on this. I would say Muddy Waters, this next album, he kind of found a pocket and began to ride in a pocket. But this one, he's all over the place, but he's just spitting rhyme after rhyme. It's just ill. So much imagery in this. One of the greatest albums. To this day, I continue to play this. It came out in '94. This is 2017. I'm still playing it. Another thing to note about this album, around the time this Def Jam put this album out, they also put out Method Man's first debut album, Takao, and they called it Month of the Man. So they sold both of these albums at the same time, and I bought both of these albums on the same day, Redman and Method Man. So I listened to both of those, and they both were gritty hip hop albums. And it's so ironic that later on they began to do songs together, became a group. Redman, Method Man, How High, went on to do movies together, do the movie together, shows, tours, and to this day they tour together. But both of them dropped their album at the same time, around the same time. Method Man, Takao, Redman's There Is a Dark Side. This is the album that cemented them together. And this album, a lot of the production was done by Eric Stern, but a lot of it was done by Redman himself. So a lot of people, surprisingly, would discover that Redman can actually produce records. He actually can make beats and everything like that. But this album right here, Redman, There's a Dark Side, check it out. Again, one of the greatest albums, rap albums of all times. A lot of people gonna say Muddy Waters. They're gonna fight me on this, but this is my all-time favorite album. One of my all-time favorite albums. Next up, I'm going to discuss another one. I'm going to discuss Outkast first album. Peace.